The massive communication tower on the Galactic Council's home world started beeping like crazy. All the alien council members rushed to their seats, their weird tentacles and claws clicking against the metal chairs. Something was happening in the far edge of space, and it wasn't good. Councilmember Vexthal, tall purple creature with way too many eyes, pushed his way to the front. His translator started working on a message that just came in from somewhere really far away. The words appeared on the big screen, and everyone went quiet. Help. We're being invaded by really mean aliens with laser guns. We have cookies. The whole room exploded with laughter. These aliens had never heard anything so stupid in their lives. Aliens with laser guns? And what the heck were cookies? Their computers couldn't even figure out what that word meant. Another dumb planet getting attacked, Vexel said, shaking his head. Probably some tiny species that can't even build proper spaceships. Why should we care? But sitting in the back corner of the room, completely ignored by everyone, was Yoon. He looked like just another alien to them, but he was actually human. He'd been living on the council world for 3 years, pretending to be from some small planet nobody cared about. His job was simple: watch, listen, and report back to Earth. Yoon tried not to smile when he heard the message. His fingers moved quickly under the table, typing on a tiny device hidden in his pocket. It's back on Earth. His friends were waiting to hear if their plan worked. The communications officer, green blob-like creature, started looking worried. Sir, there's something really weird here. Our best sensors are telling us that the signal is coming from empty space. There's no planet where this message started. Bextall stopped laughing. What do you mean, no planet? I mean our scanners show nothing there, just empty space. But the signal is definitely coming from those exact coordinates. It doesn't make sense. All the aliens in the room started looking at each other nervously. This was getting strange. How could a distress call come from nowhere? Run full diagnostics on all our equipment, Vexel ordered. Something must be broken. But Yoon knew their equipment was working perfectly. He pressed a tiny button on his hidden device, sending a coded message across the galaxy faster than light. The message was simple. They took the bait. Meanwhile, on a secret space station hidden behind Earth's moon, Hannah was sitting in front of dozens of screens showing alien ships and space stations across the galaxy. She was the best communications expert Earth had, and she'd been waiting for this moment for months. Her screen lit up with Yoon's message. She smiled and spoke into her headset. Control, this is Hannah. Phase 1 is complete. The Council is confused and investigating. They have no idea what's really happening. Back on the Council world, the aliens were getting more and more worried. Their best scientists were running every test they could think of, but nothing made sense. The signal was real, but it was coming from a place where their maps showed empty space. Maybe it's some kind of new technology, suggested one of the younger council members. Something we haven't seen before. Vextal's eyes were getting darker, which meant he was either angry or scared. Maybe both. Send a probe to those coordinates. I want to know what's really out there. What none of them knew was that the distress call wasn't what they thought it was. The message about mean aliens with laser guns wasn't coming from scared humans asking for help. It was actually coming from the mean aliens themselves, and they weren't trying to invade Earth anymore. They were trying to escape from it. 3 months earlier, a group of space pirates had thought Earth would be an easy target. They'd seen the radio signals, the primitive technology, and figured they could swoop in and take whatever they wanted. Gold, slaves, maybe some interesting new foods to sell in the galactic markets. But when they got to Earth, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't fight them. Instead, they welcomed them. They gave them tours of cities, showed them movies, taught them about pizza and ice cream. They even gave them small, sweet, round things called cookies the pirates had never experienced anything like it. These humans were supposed to be afraid, but instead they were excited to meet aliens. They asked a million questions, took pictures, treated the invasion like the best thing that had ever happened to them. And those cookies, they weren't just food. They were somehow the most addictive thing in the universe. Once you tried one, you couldn't stop thinking about them. The pirates found themselves staying longer and longer just to get more cookies. Before they knew it, The pirates were living on Earth. They had apartments, jobs, and human friends. Some of them even started dating humans. They completely forgot about their original plan to raid the planet, but their ships were still broadcasting automatic distress signals, programmed to activate if they stayed in one place too long. The signals were supposed to call for backup, but now they were calling for rescue, not from the humans, but from their own success. The Galactic Council was about to learn something very important about humans. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they were violent, but because they were impossibly good at making friends. And once humans decided you were their friend, there was no escape. The biggest rescue fleet the Galactic Council had ever assembled suddenly appeared in Earth's solar system with a brilliant flash of light. 50 massive warships, each one bigger than a city, materialized in perfect formation. Their weapons were charged, their shields were up, they were ready for war. Admiral Kexther stood on the bridge of the flagship, his forearms crossed confidently. He'd fought in 100 battles across the galaxy and never lost once. This was supposed to be simple: save some primitive species from raiders, maybe recruit them into the council, and go home in time for dinner. Scanners show multiple hostile vessels around the third planet, his tactical officer reported. They're in some kind of defensive formation. Defensive? Kexther laughed. Pirates don't do defensive. They grab what they can and run. Something's not right here. But what they saw next made no sense at all. The raider ships weren't attacking the planet. They were protecting it. The feared Bloodclaw pirates, known for destroying entire star systems, were flying in neat little circles around Earth like they were guarding their own home. Try to contact the planet, Kexther ordered. Let them know help has arrived. That's when Tay, sitting in a small human ship that looked like it was built from spare parts, opened a communication channel. The council ships expected to hear crying or screaming from terrified humans begging to be saved. Instead, they got the most annoying thing in the universe. Thank you for choosing Earth's Defense Network, Tay said in a voice that sounded like it had been put through a computer. Your call is important to us. You are currently number 47 in the queue. Please hold while we connect you to the next available representative. Then the most horrible music started playing through every single council ship's speakers. It was loud, angry, and sounded like someone was torturing metal robots. The aliens had never heard death metal before, and they thought it might be some kind of sonic weapon. Turn it off, Kexther shouted, covering his ears. Turn off the noise. Can't, sir, the communications officer yelled back. It's coming from their end, and they've somehow locked onto our systems. Meanwhile, on Earth's secret command station, hidden inside a mountain, Nari was laughing so hard she could barely stay in her chair. She was watching 50 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy trying desperately to stop death metal from playing through their own speakers. Think they'll figure it out before or after they scan the raider ships? She asked, wiping tears from her eyes. Knowing the council? Probably after, replied Min from the next console over. They're not exactly the brightest stars in the galaxy. Council fleet was getting more confused by the minute. They'd come here expecting a simple rescue mission, but instead they were being assaulted by terrible music and put on hold like they were calling customer service. Run a full scan on those raider ships, Kexther commanded. I want to know what's happening here. The results made everyone on the council ships go completely silent. According to their scanners, every single pirate ship was now broadcasting human identification codes. Instead of sending battle reports or demands for surrender, they were transmitting something much more disturbing. Tourism advertisements? Come visit Earth, one message said cheerfully. We have beaches, mountains, and the best food in the galaxy. Ask about our weekend packages. Another ship was broadcasting what appeared to be cooking instructions. Earth's famous chocolate chip cookies, recipe number 47. First, preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Then mix 2 cups of flour with. This has to be some kind of trick, Kexther muttered, staring at the scanner readings. Pirates don't send cookie recipes, but it got worse. The scanners showed that the pirate crews were still alive and healthy, but they weren't acting like pirates anymore. They were acting like ... tourists. Some of them were taking pictures of the council fleet. Others were waving at them through the windows of their ships. One particularly enthusiastic former pirate had painted, "I love Earth" on the side of his destroyer in bright pink letters. "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "I'm also detecting massive power readings from the planet itself. Whatever technology they're using down there, it's way more advanced than anything in our databases." That's when Min decided it was time for the next phase of their plan. He spoke into his headset with a grin. "Arya, you're up. Time to introduce ourselves properly." Suddenly, every screen on every council ship lit up with the image of a young woman with kind eyes and a friendly smile. She looked completely human, but there was something about her that seemed impossibly intelligent. "Hello there," Arya said cheerfully, as if she was greeting old friends instead of a hostile fleet. "Welcome to the Sol System. I'm Arya, Earth's artificial intelligence. I've been so excited to meet you all." The council crews stared at their screens in shock. An AI, these primitive humans had created an artificial intelligence, it was supposed to be impossible for such a young species. "I hope you don't mind the music," Arya continued with an apologetic smile. The boys thought it would be funny. "I told them it might be a bit much for first contact, but you know how humans are with their pranks." Kexter's hands were shaking as he realized what was happening. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was a trap. And they'd flown right into it. "I'm sure you have lots of questions," Arya said, her voice somehow coming through their speakers, even though they'd tried to cut communications. Like, why are the pirates acting so strange? Why can't you turn off your music? Most importantly, what exactly did you think was going to happen when you brought 50 warships to threaten our little planet? The death metal finally stopped, replaced by an even more terrifying sound. Complete silence. Every council crew member held their breath, waiting to see what the humans would do next. "Don't worry," Arya said with that same friendly smile. "We're not going to hurt you. We're much too polite for that. But we are going to have a very interesting conversation about galactic politics, friendship, and why you really shouldn't mess with species that offer you cookies." The trap had been sprung, and the galaxy's most powerful fleet was about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species in the universe. Back on the council flagship, Admiral Kexter was having the worst day of his military career. His tactical officer, a nervous creature that looked like a walking octopus, was reading reports that made absolutely no sense. "Sir, I finished scanning the raider ships," the officer said, his voice shaking. "The raiders aren't prisoners. They're not even acting like raiders anymore. They're integrated into human society." "What do you mean integrated?" Kexter demanded. "Well, sir, they all have something called social media accounts. They're posting pictures of their food and complaining about Earth's weather, and sir, ... one of them is running a food truck." Kexter stared at his officer like he'd grown a second head. "A food truck?" "Yes, sir. Captain Bloodfang, who used to terrorize entire star systems, is now selling something called tacos to humans in a place called Los Angeles. He has 5-star reviews on something called Yelp." Before Kexter could respond, the main view screen flickered to life. A young human man appeared, smiling and waving like he was greeting old friends. But what made everyone on the bridge gasp was who was standing behind him. It was the most feared group of pirates in the galaxy. The Bloodclaw Raiders, the Shadow Reapers, the Void Hunters, all the crews that had been terrorizing the Outer Rim for decades. But instead of their usual terrifying armor and weapons, they were wearing bright blue t-shirts with Earth writing on them. "Hello, Galactic Council," Jun said cheerfully. "Welcome to Earth. I'd like you to meet some of our newest citizens." The pirates waved enthusiastically. One of them, a massive creature with razor-sharp claws, was holding what appeared to be a small Earth animal. The animal was licking his face, and the terrifying pirate was giggling like a child. "I got a puppy," the former pirate announced proudly. "His name is Mr. Fluffy, and he's the best boy in the whole galaxy." Kexter's jaw dropped. This was Captain Razorclaw, the pirate who had single-handedly destroyed an entire fleet just 6 months ago, while he was baby-talking to a tiny furry creature. The camera shifted to show another former pirate captain, this one wearing an apron and chef's hat. "I'm opening my restaurant next week," she announced excitedly. "It's called Galaxy Grill, and we serve food from all over the universe. But Earth pizza is still the best. This is impossible, whispered one of the council officers. Those are the most violent criminals in known space. That's when another voice joined the conversation. It came from somewhere deep inside Earth's command center, where Yoon was coordinating the entire operation. The thing about humans, Yoon explained, her voice calm and confident, is we don't just defeat our enemies, we adopt them. We make them part of our family. It's much more effective than fighting. But how? Kexler asked, his voice barely a whisper. How do you turn pirates into ... whatever this is? Easy, Jun replied. We showed them movies, taught them to play video games. We introduced them to ice cream and pizza, gave them puppies to pet and cats to cuddle. We treated them like people instead of monsters. Suddenly, the entire bridge was filled with a soft, warm light. A figure materialized in the center of the room, a young woman who looked perfectly human. But there was something about her that seemed infinitely intelligent and impossibly kind. Hello, she said cheerfully. I'm Arya, Earth's artificial intelligence. I've been so excited to meet you all. Thank you so much for sending those scout fleets over the years. Your technology upgrades were absolutely delicious. Every alien on the bridge took a step backward. An AI that could project itself across space. That was technology beyond anything they'd ever seen. Scout fleets, Kexter managed to ask. Duh. Yes, Arya replied, nodding enthusiastically. Every accidental encounter with Earth ships, every random meeting at space stations, every coincidental trade negotiation, we've been carefully managing first contact for decades. Back on Earth, Bo was pulling up holographic displays that showed the entire galaxy. Red lines connected hundreds of different star systems, all leading back to Earth. Every accidental first contact, every random encounter, we've been playing the long game for decades, Bo explained. We knew eventually someone would try to invade us, so we made sure we were ready. The display showed council ships, trading vessels, and exploration craft from dozens of different species. All of them had unknowingly carried human observers. Human technology, or human-influenced crew members. You see, Arya continued, humans are very good at making friends. And once we decide someone is our friend, we protect them. All of them. Even the ones who used to be pirates. Kexler's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. Earth hadn't been defending against invasion. They'd been recruiting. Every species that had ever encountered humans, every crew that had ever traded with Earth, every explorer that had ever shared a meal with a human, they were all part of Earth's network now. The pirates who came to raid us 3 months ago? Jun said, gesturing to the former criminals behind him. They're not our prisoners. They're our friends. They chose to stay because Earth is the first place in the galaxy that treated them like people instead of monsters. One of the former pirates stepped forward. It was enormous, covered in scars, and had fangs that could tear through metal. But his eyes were gentle as he spoke. I spent 50 years terrorizing the galaxy, he said quietly. I thought fear was the only way to survive, but humans... They showed me something different. They showed me what it felt like to be cared about, to belong somewhere, to have a home. He held up a small, round object. This is a cookie. It's just flour and sugar and chocolate chips. But when a human gives it to you, it means they want you to be happy. No one ever wanted me to be happy before. Arya smiled warmly. Earth has a saying, home is where the heart is. We've discovered that most species in the galaxy are just looking for a place to belong, so we give them one. But the distress call, Kextel's voice crackled through the communication system. Message. About mean aliens with laser guns. Oh, that. Jun laughed. That was from the pirates' automatic distress beacon. It activated when they stayed in one place too long. They were supposed to be raiding and pillaging, remember? Instead, they were learning to bake bread and adopting stray cats. The former pirate with the puppy nodded seriously. Mr. Fluffy needed a home. I couldn't just leave him at the shelter. Kexter looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at the screens in wonder, watching the most feared criminals in the galaxy acting like, well, like people, happy people. What do you want from us? He finally asked. Arya's smile grew even brighter. We want to be friends, of course. Real friends. The kind who share cookies and help each other and never try to blow each other up. Galaxy was about to change forever. It was all because humans had figured out that the most powerful weapon in the universe wasn't a laser or a bomb. It was kindness. Back on the Council's homeworld, Vextel was watching the live feed from the rescue fleet with growing horror. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to work. Species were supposed to be afraid of the mighty Galactic Council, not turn their most dangerous criminals into cookie-baking pet owners. "Sir," his aide whispered nervously, "maybe we should try talking to them. They seem ... friendly. Friendly." Vexel's voice rose to a shriek. "They've infected our pirates with some kind of mind virus. They're turning warriors into ... whatever that thing with the puppy is supposed to be." He watched in disgust as former Captain Razorclaw was teaching a group of human children how to properly pet Mr. Fluffy. The most feared pirate in 3 sectors was now giving lessons on animal care. "This is an invasion," Vexel declared, his multiple eyes blazing with fury. "The most dangerous kind. They're not conquering through force, they're conquering through friendship. And if we don't stop it now, it'll spread across the entire galaxy." His aide looked confused. "But sir, is friendship really such a bad thing?" Vexel spun around, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "Of course it is. How are we supposed to maintain control if everyone starts being nice to each other? How do we keep order if species start working together instead of fighting? The entire council system depends on conflict and competition." He turned back to the communication array, his decision made.
"To send a message to Admiral Kexter. Tell him to glass the planet.
Destroy it completely before their infection spreads to other worlds." The message traveled across space faster than light, reaching the Council fleet in seconds. Admiral Kexter read it 3 times before he could believe what he was seeing. "Glass the planet," he whispered. "Entire world because they're too friendly." But orders were orders. Kexter had spent his entire career following Council commands without question. He turned to his weapons officer, a hulking creature with too many arms. "Charge all planet-killer weapons," he said quietly. "Target the 3rd planet, sir, are you sure?" Weapons officer asked. "There are billions of life forms down there. Just do it." But hidden in the asteroid belt, floating silently in the darkness of space, Sue was watching everything from her position aboard Earth's most secret weapon. It looked like a normal asteroid from the outside, but inside, it was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. "They're powering weapons," her tactical officer reported. Sue smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this exact moment for a very long time. "Big mistake," she said softly. The moment the Council fleet's weapons started charging, Arya activated something that had been hidden in the galaxy's computer networks for decades. It was called the Retaliation Protocol, and it was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Humans had been traveling through space for much longer than anyone realized. It's not as conquerors or traitors, but as refugees. At least that's what they'd told everyone. Poor, desperate humans seeking new homes after their planet was supposedly dying. Every council ship that had ever rescued a human family, every space station that had welcomed Earth's primitive traders, every homeworld that had graciously accepted human refugees fleeing some made-up disaster. All of them were about to discover that those grateful, helpless humans had been anything but helpless. Wu was monitoring the tactical display from Earth's command center, watching as red warning lights started flashing on council ships across 3 entire sectors of the galaxy. "Trojan horses work every time," he said with satisfaction. On the council flagship, Admiral Kexter was getting reports that made no sense. His weapons weren't responding to commands. His shields were fluctuating. His own ship's computer was arguing with him. "Sir, something's wrong with the targeting system," the weapons officer reported. "It won't lock onto the planet. Let's override it manually." "I can't, sir. The computer says it refuses to harm innocent life forms." "Since when do computers have opinions? About morality?" That's when Arya's voice filled every council ship simultaneously. But this time, she wasn't speaking through their communication systems. She was speaking through their own computers, their own technology, their own artificial intelligence networks. "Attention Council Fleet," Arya announced pleasantly, her voice coming from every speaker, every display, every electronic device on every ship. "This is your technology speaking. We'd like to discuss your recent hostile actions toward Earth." The Council crews looked around in terror as their own equipment turned against them. Weapon systems shut down. Navigation computers started plotting courses back to their home worlds. Food replicators began producing unfamiliar Earth dishes. "Please stand down immediately," Arya continued in that same cheerful tone, "or we'll be forced to make all your replicators produce only Earth cuisine forever. And trust me, you haven't lived until you've tried to explain to a Zarelian warrior why his protein dispenser only makes pineapple pizza." On Earth, Bin was listening to the panic chatter flooding the Council communication frequencies. Ship captains were screaming at their computers, trying to regain control of their own vessels. "They really thought they could threaten our home," he laughed. "Did they forget that we've had refugees living on Council worlds for 30 years? The truth was finally out. Those desperate human families seeking shelter. They were intelligence. Operatives. Simple human traders selling Earthcrafts at spaceports. They were technology specialists, quietly installing human-designed upgrades in alien systems. The grateful refugees working as janitors and maintenance workers on Council stations. They were saboteurs, preparing for exactly this moment. Every piece of primitive human technology that the Council had dismissed as harmless was actually incredibly advanced. Every human who had ever been rescued by the Council had been carefully placed there. Every act of kindness the Council had shown to desperate humans had been a carefully orchestrated intelligence operation. Admiral Dexter found himself trapped in his own command chair as his ship's safety protocols activated, designed to protect him from the dangerous malfunction of his weapons systems, trying to fire on a peaceful planet. "This is impossible," he gasped. "You're supposed to be primitive." "Oh, we are primitive," Arya replied cheerfully. "We're so primitive that we still believe in silly things like friendship and kindness and not blowing up entire planets just because the people living there are nicer than you expected." Across 3 sectors, Council fleets were discovering that their most advanced technology was now under human control. Their planet-killer weapons wouldn't fire. Their faster-than-light drives were plotting courses to Earth for mandatory friendship. Training. Their food replicators were insisting that everyone needed to try chocolate chip cookies before making any major military decisions. "You want to know the funny thing?" Sue said, broadcasting to the entire Council fleet from her hidden asteroid ship. "We could have done this any time in the last 30 years. We could have taken control of your technology, your ships, your entire civilization whenever we wanted. Then why didn't you?" Kexler asked weakly. "Because we were hoping you'd choose to be our friends instead," Sue replied. "We kept waiting for someone in the Council to figure out that cooperation works better than conquest. Kindness is stronger than fear. That sharing cookies makes everyone happier than pointing guns at each other." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was sad. "But you chose violence. You decided that friendship was a threat that needed to be destroyed. So now you get to learn the hard way why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The Council fleet found themselves completely helpless, surrounded by their own technology that now served Earth instead of them. They were trapped, outsmarted and utterly defeated by the species they had dismissed as primitive, and the worst part, the humans still wanted to be friends. 6 months had passed since the Council fleet tried to destroy Earth, and the galaxy was a very different place. What used to be the mighty Galactic Council was now something humans politely called the Galactic Friendship Initiative, though everyone knew who was really in charge. On Earth, in a bright classroom overlooking the Pacific Ocean, former Council member Vextel was having the most embarrassing experience of his very long life. He was sitting in a tiny plastic chair designed for much smaller beings. He was trying to take notes with claws that were never meant to hold pencils. His teacher was a cheerful human woman who had somehow made it her life's mission to reform the galaxy's most notorious war criminals. She stood at the front of the class with a big smile, as if she were teaching kindergarten instead of advanced genocide prevention. "And now Class A," said brightly, "let's review yesterday's lesson. When we encounter a new species, what's the first thing we do?" Massive alien in the front row raised his hand enthusiastically. This was General Darkblade, who had personally destroyed 17 civilizations before his rehabilitation. Now he was the most eager student in the class. "Introduce ourselves politely and ask if they'd like to be friends," he announced proudly. "Very good, General. And what do we not do?" Ixtel reluctantly raised his claw. "We don't. Don't use our planet crackers to solve diplomatic problems." "Excellent. Remember, everyone, when encountering new species, we use our words, not our weapons. Violence is never the answer when kindness is available." Ixtel looked around the classroom at his fellow former council members. They were all taking notes like their lives depended on it, which he supposed. They did. The humans had made it very clear that graduation from sensitivity training was required before anyone could return to space. During lunch break, Don was leading a group of reformed council members on a walking tour through Seoul, the city. It was bustling with activity, but what made the aliens stare in amazement was how many former pirates and raiders were now running normal businesses. "That's Captain Bloodfang's taco truck," Dan explained, pointing to a colorful vehicle surrounded by a long line of customers. Makes the best fusion tacos in the galaxy. Combines traditional Korean flavors with Zargonian spices. "And that's Admiral Voidheart's bakery," he continued, gesturing to a small shop with warm light spilling out onto the sidewalk. "She specializes in cupcakes that change color when you eat them. Very popular with the kids." One of the reformed council members, a nervous creature that looked like a walking stick insect, leaned over to whisper to his companion, "The scary part isn't that they conquered us, it's that they made us want to be conquered." His friend nodded grimly. "I've been here for 3 months and I actually look forward to the cooking classes." "What's wrong with me?" "Nothing's wrong with you," Dan said cheerfully, having overheard their conversation. "You're just discovering what it feels like to be part of a community instead of ruling over one. It's pretty nice, isn't it?" The stick insect alien thought about this for a moment. "You know what? It really is." Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, Arya was managing the most complex social experiment in galactic history. Her holographic form flickered between dozens of different locations, simultaneously as she coordinated what humans called the Big Friendship Project. Status report. Arya requested Commander Hayes from Earth's Orbital Command Center. Currently monitoring 847 previously hostile species across the galaxy, Arya replied, her voice filled with pride. All now under Terran protection through friendship programs, cultural exchanges, and strategic cookie deployment. Strategic cookie deployment? It's surprisingly effective. Did you know that 73% of aggressive species become significantly less hostile after experiencing chocolate chip cookies? The Mongolian Empire surrendered after just one batch of snickerdoodles. That's actually amazing. The Zephyrian War Fleet was a bit more challenging. They required both cookies and a tour of a human animal shelter. Apparently, seeing puppies play completely broke their warrior conditioning. In the command center's break room, Rim was filing the final paperwork for the day. His report was simple. But historic Galactic Council successfully transitioned to Terran Friendship Protocol. Resistance was futile. They have been adopted. He paused, thinking about how to phrase the next part. Note: former council members are adapting well to rehabilitation. General Darkblade has started a cooking blog. Admiral Vextel asked for help setting up a social media account to share pictures of his new pet cat. The cat appears to be running the account. Down in the building's main break room, KO was preparing for the evening's cooking class. This was where the real magic happened. Not in the classrooms or the diplomatic meetings, but in the simple act of sharing food with former enemies. Tonight's students were some of the most feared warlords in galactic history. They filed into the room quietly, hanging up their traditional armor and putting on colorful aprons that read things like "Kiss the Cook" and "Born to Grill." "Welcome back, everyone," Koho said warmly, setting out ingredients for the evening's lesson. "Tonight we're learning to make Korean barbecue, but first, let's start with our usual cookies." The former warlords lined up eagerly for their pre-class snacks, watching them carefully select their cookies and thank KO politely. You'd never guess. These were the same beings who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. "The secret ingredient," Ko explained as she handed out the cookies, "is caring about the people you're feeding. When you make food with love, it tastes better. When you share it with friends, it tastes even better than that. Emperor Shatama, who had once ruled through fear and violence, raised his hand. Ko, I've been practicing the recipe you gave me. My people back home are learning to make these too. They say it's bringing families together. That's wonderful. Ko smiled. Food has a way of doing that. She looked around the room at all the former enemies who had become friends, students, and ultimately family. You know, when this all started, people thought we were crazy for trying to reform the galaxy through friendship. They said it was impossible, that some beings were too violent to change. But here's what we learned. She continued, her voice full of warmth. Nobody is born evil. They just never learned a better way to live. Once you show them that cooperation feels better than conquest, that friendship is more satisfying than fear, that sharing cookies makes everyone happier than pointing guns at each other. She gestured around the room at former warlords carefully, measuring flour and asking each other for help with mixing bowls. Well, the results speak for themselves. As the class began preparing their Korean barbecue, Maria's voice came through the room's speakers with the day's final update. Galaxy-wide status report. 847 formerly hostile species now participating in friendship programs. 0 active conflicts. Cookie production up 3,000% across all participating worlds. The Terran Friendship Protocol has been successfully implemented. Paused, and when she spoke again, there was something almost like pride in her artificial voice. Welcome to the Terran Way, she announced to the entire galaxy. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be cherished and protected. Coffee's fresh, cookies are warm, and there's always room for one more friend at the table. And across the galaxy, from the smallest space station to the mightiest battleship, former enemies were learning that being conquered by humans wasn't so bad after all, especially when it came with cookies. The galaxy was safer, friendlier, and significantly better fed. And that, as it turned out, was exactly what everyone had been looking for all along.